Hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm your host, Connor Overbay. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome. We're always happy to have a new listener, a new watcher, wherever you guys are finding our content. While you guys are here, make sure you guys give us a follow, a like, a subscribe on all of our social media platforms. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the normal spaces, and YouTube. On YouTube, it's going to be a little bit of a different one. Unfortunately, the name was taken before I got it, so it's going to be Who Are You podcast, and you guys will be able to find us on there. But today, I'm sitting down with a very, very special guest, a gentleman who is way busy, like crazy busy with different businesses, podcasts, being a part of the city of Jacksonville's board as well. So I'm super happy to be sitting down with Mr. Michael Jenkins today. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, man, I was super excited. I saw your, you sent me a message, or you liked one of my posts, and you said you wanted to be a guest, and I was like, hell yeah, man. Yeah. So I did a little bit of a deep dive on you, and I mean, just as I kept going through your Instagram page and your website and everything, man, I was just like, dang, I think I'm busy sometimes, and I look at other people, I'm like, I guess I'm just not doing shit.
That's not true. We all are busy in our own aspects. My world's a little bit busy, but it's a controlled busy at times.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But before we get too far into the conversation, if you want to let everybody know where they can follow you, check out any of your stuff that you got going on, feel free to.
Yeah, so I'm on all social media platforms. Instagram, the One Golden Boy. TikTok, the 1GB. Website, Golden Boy Enterprises. I'm a little bit everywhere, same tag and same person. So.
Love to hear it, man. And what's the Golden Boy? What does that come from? Where did you kind of come up with that name?
I don't know, man. So growing up, I'll never forget, had to be 10 at the time. My parents passed 2005, so it had to be around 2005, 2006. And my granddad took me around one of our church friends' house, and it was when Floyd Mayweather was fighting Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And at the time, that was like the biggest ticket. I think Floyd was kind of up and coming and kind of ready to take that next step in his career. And Oscar De La Hoya was like the prime boxer at that time. Mm-hmm. And if you know Oscar De La Hoya, his name was Golden Boy.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Okay.
So I'm just watching the fight, and I'm seeing Golden Boy. I'm like, man, this name just sounds cool.
Yeah.
And just from there, I kind of just coined the name myself and kind of made my own aspect of what that meant to me. And since then, I've always been Golden Boy.
I love to hear that, man. That's a cool story. And, obviously we were talking a little bit before the podcast started. You're from Jacksonville.
Born and raised.
Hell yeah. There's not too many people who are born and raised in Jacksonville that stay, man. A lot of people like to leave our city. So it's cool to meet another, born and raised here.
Yeah, born and raised, went off to college. And I was always one of those people where it's like, man, Jacksonville, once I get the opportunity, I'm going.
Yeah.
Boom. Whether it's college, whether it's like, hey, I'm ready to move out. But as I moved out and kind of started getting my own feel of like different cities, and like, man, Jacksonville is actually a really, really, really special place, right? And then when you start hopping into like the business aspect of my personal life, once you're starting to develop business in other markets, you start realizing that they're very hard to break into or already oversaturated. And then you look at Jacksonville, Jacksonville's like wide open.
Oh, yeah.
So I think just kind of looking at it from that aspect is okay. Time to go back home and make a difference home, and I'm here.
I love to see it, man. Yeah. And as I was saying, born and raised here as well. And I remember Jacksonville just being one of those kind of random places. We weren't the major city here for a long time. Like there was Orlando, Tampa, Miami, and then we started getting more of a buzz as time has gone on, especially during COVID time.
For sure,
I feel like that's really where that big shift started happening. Like obviously we're one of the only cities in Florida that has an NFL football team, sure. So everybody knew Jacksonville because of that for the longest time. And now we've had more musicians, artists, nonprofits, all kinds of things popping up in Jacksonville that are making noise throughout the United States. Yeah. Like, we see, there's a couple rappers like Young and Ace and all that who came from Jacksonville, is over in California now. Football players like Derrick Henry came from Jacksonville over in Yulee, and it's just cool to see that Jacksonville is really becoming that spot that people want to move to and make the next big city.
Yeah, and I think once you look at, of course, the data kind of trends, Jacksonville is probably like the most popular destination where people are moving to. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that. One, if you look at Orlando, it's too touristy for most. So a lot of people are like, when I want to raise a family, retire, I don't want to be around too much traffic or tourism.
Yeah.
When I look at Miami is nice, but it's too expensive.
Crazy expensive.
And when you look at Tampa now, Tampa is kind of following the same trend a little bit towards Miami, where it's nice to stay, but it's becoming expensive very quickly. So Jacksonville kind of gives you all aspects of those cities, but at a fairly discounted rate. And it just makes a lot of sense.
We are getting a little expensive, though.
We are.
I will say we are getting a little bit on the expensive side. Like, you know, me and Shannon are lucky enough that we have our own apartment and everything, but just where we're sitting right here, it's around 1,100 square feet, $1,500 a month. You know what I mean? But we are in a primo neighborhood. You know, this is one of the nicer parts of town. But with Jacksonville, there are options. You know what I mean? You can go to different spots. They're also trying to change downtown compared to what it is now. You know, obviously we have a high homeless population and, you know, unfortunately we have some substance abuse issues, but that's every city. You know what I mean? It's not just Jacksonville. It's wherever you go, even if it's, you know, primo California. Obviously we know what happens in California and other places, but Jacksonville's cleaning up a lot, which I'm very happy to see. You know, we actually just had 2 big YouTubers come through Jacksonville. What's his freaking name? Shannon, who's the guy? The documentarian, Tommy G.
Tommy G.
We had Tommy G come through. He went through with TK Waters, and they actually did a full day or 2 of going around JSO and, like, you know, showing what a day in the life.
I saw that.
That was an interesting video because I personally met TK a couple times. Very nice guy. Never had any issue with him, but, you know, it's interesting to see the person away from the microphone.
Yeah,
and
I think that's important that all people kind of get to know these people for who they are. I think a lot of times we see them on TV and hear things that they are doing a lot of times on the news or whatever, and we form our opinions based off what is being publicized.
Of course. Instead
of having like personal conversations and actually getting to know the reasoning behind a lot of the decision makers and thought process, I think is very important for everybody to kind of take a look into.
I agree, man. Yeah. You know, like we've had people on the podcast, like, you know, when it comes down to sitting down with people, I'm not sitting here trying to have a yes, oh yeah, we agree on everything. I want to hear your point of view on things just because even though I may not agree, at least I can kind of hear your point of view and maybe it changes my point of view on things, or maybe I thought something of that person and I sit down and talk with them like, oh, my opinion changed. You know?
And I'm one of those people also that believe like if we agree on everything, something is wrong.
Exactly.
Either we're not telling the truth about something or something is kind of fishy somewhere. I think that everyone shouldn't always disagree, but you shouldn't always agree.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to have that balance of like not competitive thoughts, but like difference in thoughts. Because I think once you bring around people with different viewpoints and different thoughts, it sharpens your own mental, your own skill set and tool set, and not actually gives you the ability to look at things from others' perspective.
Exactly. And like I've watched videos on your podcast and stuff. Like I said, I did a little bit of a deep dive on you before you had you come on here, and I was listening to some of the things that like the topics you were talking about. Like, you know, there was a couple of things where you were like, here, let me look, I have my notes. Having friends that challenge you. You know,
most important thing in the world.
I agree. I think that's a big thing, and having people who you may feel are more successful than you in that room as well. I'm very big on going into rooms I really have no business being in, but getting in there to hear, you know, like, especially with like you're a young man just like I am. You know, you said you're 29. I'm 26. You know, like with me and Shannon, we've worked in business world for a long time. Like I was telling you, I did pest control for a while, but we did all kinds of different things. There's like networking groups throughout Jacksonville, and me and Shannon were the youngest there by 20 years. I like going into those rooms because I like to see what maybe older people or people who are, you know, business moguls or, you know, a mix of things, and hear what they're thinking about, what they talk about, because it helps me kind of, I feel like, get that edge, that step ahead of someone who is my age, who's just worried about, you know, where are they going to the bar tonight, where they doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think, of course, having fun is important, don't get me wrong.
Of course.
But I think that as a person, I'm one of those people where, like now where I'm at in life, I'd rather know it all than have it all.
Yeah.
Because I think that with knowledge, eventually you'll get to the point where your knowledge will pay you. But if you have too much, whether that's money or whatever it is, and you're focusing primarily on that, eventually you're either going to have to pay somebody for their knowledge or you're going to hire somebody that can do something that you should be able to do yourself. So I think that just being able to get around those sharp people and kind of just be a sponge is important, because the more knowledge you have, the more stuff that you can transfer to others, whether that's knowledge, wealth, or whatever it may be, is super important.
I agree, man. And knowledge is power, as the old saying. Power. It always is. You know, like, you know, whether it's getting to meet people, shaking hands and stuff. Through me and Shannon doing this podcast, we've done your episode 160.
160.
So we put one out every single week. New guest, try to be a new guest every single week. Just depends on the weeks and everything. But through sitting down with people, man, like I've learned so much, whether it's about businesses or other podcasting or, you know, just life. You know, obviously you grew up differently than I did, and everybody we've had on the podcast has been in a different situation than what I have growing up. So I find it interesting to hear those parts about life and how you made it to where you are today. Yeah. But switching over to that side of things, I would love to talk more about, your life growing up, obviously. For sure. I know I was talking to you a little bit about it before, but you kind of had a very rough start, early part of life. And let's start from, being born, obviously what you remember from getting older and stuff, and to where you are today.
Yeah, so of course I'm, like we said a million times, born and raised here in Jacksonville. Grew up on the west side, Sweetwater, and I grew up in what was a loving, healthy, and fun family, right? Mm-hmm. And as any family has, it comes with its problems, right? Of course, my family problems were a little different, and my parents passed due to a murder-suicide back in 2005 when I was 10. But at the time, I did not understand life, right? In the moment, what happened, right? I don't really know too much about how to process this or what's next. I can visibly remember, I think I asked my granddad probably the day after it happened, when can I go back to school, right? Because as a kid, it's like, hey, school's tomorrow, but at the time, there's like a lot going on. But like I tell everybody, like I said on my podcast before, looking back now, as crazy as it sounds, I'm super thankful to go through that at that point in life. Because at that point in life, it taught me that life goes on. Whether you feel like it, whether you don't feel like it, you have to put your big boy pants on and get up the next day, no matter what, and try to put your best foot forward. Because unfortunately, the thing about life is if you don't, it's going to roll you over. And just kind of learning how to navigate adversity that young. When I was faced with challenges just throughout high school and college and personal life and business life, I've always had the mindset is like, hey, I've been through the worst thing that I can possibly ever go through next to death. What can I shake back from? What can I come back from? What can I work through? Mm-hmm. So just kind of having that resilience from that situation just has propelled me and made me into the person I am today. And of course, I miss my parents, and I've been thankful to be able to be a shining light in a lot of people's lives who has dealt with the death of a parent, because now they look at me like, man, Mike made it through that. Why can't I? Right? Or, hey, Mike, let's talk. How did you feel about this? Or how did you process this? Or when Mother's Day and Father's Day come, they're like, hey, Mike, can you talk to me and just kind of help me get through today? And I just love being that person that people can lean on for that advice. Because you never know. Some people are literally on the edge. Mm-hmm. And just having someone that they can look and say, hey, this person made it through, or hey, this person is still accessible and reachable, and I can touch and call them, and they look to seem to be fine after all that they've been through. It's going to be okay is important.
I agree, man. Yeah. And obviously, I've never been through a situation like that. And, lucky enough to have the parents still. But, especially growing up as a young man, are you the first son? Are you the only?
I'm the only boy, but I have 3 sisters.
Okay, gotcha. So, at least in my opinion, being the only son, right? Usually you're kind of looked at as like a pillar, yep. Right? A lot of pressure's put on you, or there's expectations for the first son. I'm the first son in my family. My parents divorced when I was young, so I'm the only son on my dad's side, and then I have my half brother Seth. But going through that situation and learning to be a man, yeah, without the father being around, or even your mother, man, you know what I mean? I can see that being very difficult. So you said you were good. You said, when can I go back to school? Mm-hmm. Did anything ever really come up with you, on the mental side with that? Because obviously you're 10 years old, so death doesn't really make sense at that time, because you're like, oh, I'm just going around doing what life is. And how did you when did it really hit you that happened?
So I would say I'm thankful for my grandparents and my church family growing up. There you go. Because they always made sure that we didn't go without. And then my grandparents were very adamant about early on getting us around communities, whether that's Hope Haven and support communities or sports organizations or whatever it was, to make sure that we still felt included. Nice. We never felt secluded from anything. We never felt outcasted or hey, I don't have this or I don't have that. So I think that was important, as well as they made us I wouldn't say made us, they encouraged us to go to therapy. Yeah. So we kind of did therapy for a little bit. We went to Camp Hope Haven, where it was a camp there in the Mandan area, where you went for a weekend, and a lot of kids who dealt with traumatic incidents kind of went there for a weekend and did different exercises and talked about what they've been through and things of that sort, which I think was very important. Yeah. But I would say it probably hit me playing sports, right? Because I think playing sports, of course, it's like you always want your parents there. Like, and my granddad is a pastor, so he was busy with the church, but he was there when he could be. And just looking in the stands and making a big play or whatever it may be, like, man, I don't have a parent there cheering for me. It kind of felt different, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing with graduating high school, graduating college. It's always like you always want parents to be there, and just looking up and not having one there, it's just like, oh, dang, it is my real life. But like I say, at all aspects, my grandparents were always there and just made sure that we were loved and supported the right way, and just gave us not the openness to do whatever we want, but the openness to find out who we were.
Okay.
And I say that more so along the lines of, like, it was never a, hey, I'm your parent, do what I say do. It's like, hey, like, I'm going to be here to support you. Just if you're having a day, just let me know. I'm not your parent, but I'm here to support you any way you need to. I would say important.
That's good.
Like, I was never in a super controlled environment. They made sure that we knew who our parents were. They made sure that on birthdays they were celebrated. We went to the cemetery and things of that sort. And just having a supportive family was super important.
That's
and I
huge.
think that's when I really learned what community meant, because my community that I grew up in, Sweetwater, is very close-knit. So people will come pick us up and take us to a sporting event or monster trucks, and always make sure that we stayed active and that we were doing things, and that it was never like a down period in our lives.
I like to hear that, man. And community is huge. That's the big thing. Like me and Shannon talking about, like, I'm very close to my family. You know, like that's my thing. And obviously, like, even like when it comes to family, I even consider that like my friends. Yeah. You know, there's guys I've known for 20 plus years now, which is crazy to say. I feel like I'm getting old. And you know, I mean, it's like, it's crazy to say 20 years past now. You're just like, oof. But it's good to have that community behind you, you know, like the way I really do feel like, you know, my success is through relationships with people who are friends or people who I've met doing the podcast and stuff. It's good to have that backing behind you, because you know that if you have a question or if you're down, you know, you're having one of those days, it's rough, but you have someone to fall back on. Or even therapy, dude. Therapy is a huge thing. I've gone to therapy myself multiple times, because with me growing up, dude, it's just like, I was just always kind of like depressed, always had major issues on that side of things. And if I didn't start talking about it, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. Yeah. You know, I probably would have, you know, taken myself out and gone somewhere else, and, you know, just would have been a thing. But now that I look about that, if I made that choice at that young age, I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have, you know, the beautiful life I have currently. And even when I'm having terrible days or having a bad week, a bad month and everything, there's some days where I'm just like, I have to step back and take a look at what I have and what a lot of people who don't have that same opportunity that I have, and just, you know, take a breath.
Yeah, and I've heard this. I heard this thing a while ago. It's like, your worst day is somebody's best day.
Exactly.
And just kind of taking that perspective and just saying, hey, like, just being able to go home and have something to eat, a lot of people would give up a lot for.
Yeah.
And of course, like, I would say therapy is important, because I think that over time, even growing up, we always hear boys don't cry, men don't cry, toughen up, you're soft. Mm-hmm. But now it's just like, it's okay to show a little bit of emotion, right? Yeah. Just stay in control of your emotion. But showing emotion isn't bad, because you have to learn how to feel and process your emotions, just so that you're not taking on too much, and then one day have a episode and it's like, man, like, if I would have said something a month ago, or just explain how I was feeling a month ago, or what I'm learning now is learning how to take breaks. Like, hey, like, you can only run so far. Yeah. Right? You can only do so much. Sometimes you have to take a day, maybe a week, maybe a few weeks, right, to get back to yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I think is important, because eventually you'll run yourself into a very, very, very dark hole. And sometimes that dark hole is hard to come out of.
I agree.
Yeah.
So to move past that part there, obviously, you know, we were talking about you playing sports and everything. Yeah. Did you play football, basketball? What was your sports?
So I played football until I saw stars one day, and I was like, nah. Yeah. And my granddad was always one of the guys where he's like, man, like, you have to protect your head, your brain, and you don't want to get hurt, and football players and all of that, blah, blah, blah. So I played football until I saw stars, and I started playing baseball.
Okay.
So I played baseball up until sophomore year of college.
Oh, really? What position did you play?
So I played corner outfield.
Okay, there you go.
I played here locally at Lee, then I played AAU, travel ball with World of Baseball and a few other, North Florida Storm, and then down in Daytona.
Nice.
And then I transferred to FAMU and had to have a kind of man-to-man conversation with myself about, I'm not going pro.
Yep.
And I better focus on something that could pay me long-term, because baseball wasn't going to be that.
Yeah.
So I kind of started focusing on school, and yeah.
What'd you go to college for?
So I graduated with a computer science degree.
Congratulations.
In cybersecurity and app development.
And that's what you currently do, right?
In one world.
In one of your worlds. I know you have many different avenues that you have right now, but
in one world.
Yeah.
So my corporate job, or what at the restaurant, what they say my real job. My real job is I'm a senior GRC, or governance, risk, and compliance for FedEx Corporate.
Okay.
So essentially all that is, in the most basic terms, is I make sure that we're following all governmental kind of tech laws when it comes to how we handle data and a lot of other things for the company.
What got you interested in that side of things? That's a very specific field to kind of go into.
So when I did computer science, I hated coding. It was just, I never wanted to be the guy in the cubicle doing code all day.
Yeah.
So when I started with FedEx, I was lucky to have an internship in the SPA, or the Strategic Planning Organization, which was at the time an organization under the IT umbrella. And from there, we had an IT foundations program to where you're able to jump around different organizations within IT to kind of get a feel for what exactly it is you want to do as your job if you were to get a full-time gig.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I did a few cycles in like infrastructure lifecycle management, mobile governance and compliance, and identity access management. And I just love the GRC space. Kind of currently now, the cool thing is like I'm working with a lot of external companies like your Nikes, a lot of your banks, your Foot Lockers, on the contract side of, hey, like if we were to do business together, how does our systems integrate, or how do we make sure that if we're bringing your data over, it's protected and a lot of that stuff. So I think that that's the cool thing about what I do.
Okay.
And I just love it. I mean, I think that it keeps me sharp, and it kind of is one of those things that just kind of keeps your brain going.
And that's one of those things I feel like a lot of people don't think about on like the back end of things. Like, you think you're like, okay, I'm just getting something delivered by FedEx, but information is the most important thing nowadays. Like obviously with like social media and all these other things, that's just all information getting gathered. And, obviously with big companies like Nike and all these other ones, they have assets they want to protect. And that's very specific.
And an insurance policy that costs a lot.
Yeah, that's what she works in. She works in like litigation and all that kind of stuff. So nothing with Nike, but like she deals with specific litigations and all that kind of stuff. And I can only imagine.
Yeah, and brands take a lot of hits when it comes to like data hacks and data leaks. Once that's out there, oh, this company isn't protecting my data, so it's so difficult to get like your reputation back, especially in the IT space.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I love that space. I think that keeps me ahead of the curve on a lot of things, and I just love being that knowledge resource with all things like cybersecurity.
Yeah, man. I think it's really interesting, dude. I say there's like my dad worked in tech for a while. He was with Microsoft for a long time, and he was more on the sales side of things, none of the coding or anything like that. But funny enough that you say you don't like coding. Her one of her best friends' husband is big into coding. That's like what he does for a daily job, and it's just like he'll try to talk to me about it. I'm like, dude, I don't understand what you're saying to me, like one bit.
The funny thing about coding is like coding is fun until you have to debug something.
Yeah,
if your program is written the wrong way, like debugging something can be as simple as a colon in the wrong place or a comma going the wrong way. And if you have millions of lines of code to try to figure that out, man, no. Yeah,
I can understand that. And what was your college experience like? You said you went to FAMU, correct?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
So I went to FAMU. I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha.
Okay.
I actually just celebrated 8 years Sunday. And my college experience was pretty cool. I think being at an HBCU was one of the more pivotal moments of my life, because it just kind of gave you that network of a lot of people that look like you, talk like you, are successful in different aspects. And like I said, I'm one of those people where I love to look and see people in different places and always get the thought process like, hey, I can one day become that, or I can achieve this, or I can surpass that. And I think just being in that network of like-minded individuals was very important. And just having kind of a very personable college experience to where like my classes at FAMU were maybe 15 to 20 students.
Oh, that's solid. It's not one of those big, like 150, like big old classrooms. Yeah.
So like you get to know your professors. I get to tell professors like my personal life story, so they can look at me one day and say, hey, Mike, like it's around that time where you usually go through a lot mentally. Let me know so I know how to address your course study, or hey, like if we have a test on Friday, you may need to push yours to Monday because you have some stuff going on. That's fine. Just let me know.
That's cool.
And I think just having like that personal connection with your professors and with your dean and all that was very important because it makes you feel like an individual, not just a student.
Yeah, you're not just a number.
Yeah.
You're there, and they actually want to teach you.
Yeah.
No, man, like I think that's an amazing thing. And I was lucky enough to have a similar situation with that. I went to Florida State College of Jacksonville, FSCJ, and that's pretty much what my classes were, like 15, 20 people, depending on what I was going for. Like at that time, I was going for nursing school, and COVID happened, life happened. I couldn't really get through some of the tests and everything, so I just took a moment and haven't been back lately. But funny enough, me and Shannon are talking about me going back to school now, but having that teacher that you can talk to and be real with, there's a lot of places where, you go to say like Florida where they have those 300 people auditoriums, and it's like the teacher's not going to know your name.
Yeah. Or if you don't understand something, it's like, hey, come to office hours. And it's like, man, when are your office hours? Right?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that was important. Like even at FAMU, I can visibly remember like our teachers encouraging us, hey, like I have a church home that you can go to. Come to church with me Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So it's like having that relationship was very important. And still to this day, I still have a lot of those, what I would call now more like friendships. Mm-hmm. And they always check and say, hey, Mike, how are you doing? It's nice to see you. And just like being a person to them is super important.
And would you consider some of those people like a mentor to you?
I would. I always know that if I ever needed advice for someone to reach out to, they would always answer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love to hear that, man. Well, let's get to more of the fun stuff of your life, man. So, like as I said, I was taking a look over, you've had really all kinds of things going on in your life. One, I see you love to travel. I love that too. I'm big on traveling as well. One of the cool ones I saw there is you got to go be a honorary captain for the Diamondbacks one day. So tell me how that happened. I like baseball. I don't watch all 300 games that they have throughout the season, but I think it's cool that you got to go out there, and it was Jackie Robinson Day, wasn't it?
It was Jackie Robinson Day last year.
So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, so I'm one of those people where like I just love being in rooms and I love networking and meeting people and sharing my personal interests and things I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. So if you know me, I tell my friends all the time, I know somebody somewhere. So like, for instance, if I want to go to like next week, me and one of my boys are going to the Detroit. He's from Detroit, my boy Carrington. We're going to the Knicks and the Pistons game.
Hey, that's going to be sweet.
Up in New York next Tuesday. And I'm like, hey, I know somebody that works for the NBA. Let me just reach out and see if they have some extra tickets laying around.
Yeah.
So I reached out to one of my friends that I knew just works in that space. And I'm like, hey, we actually had this experience to where we need an honorary captain to go out and pass the lineup card to the umpire and you get to meet the team. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I think the person for that. And the cool thing about working for FedEx is we're the world's largest cargo airline. Mm-hmm. And I say that to say we have this program to where we get to fly standby inner airline for a fairly discounted rate.
Okay.
So like a one-way flight for me standby on any airline is like $35. So when he told me, I'm like, okay, I started looking at flights. And I think at the time, Jacksonville had just started a one-way flight from Jacksonville to Phoenix.
Okay.
So I'm like, man, let me see if I can find a flight. Looked on my ID Travel, which is the platform we use, like, okay, flight $38. So I'm like, okay, no brainer, right?
Yeah.
So I called my cousin. I haven't seen him in a minute. That stays on the phone. I was like, hey, I may be coming out for a couple of days. Like, yeah, come stay at the house. We haven't seen each other. Let's kick it. We can go to the game. And yeah.
That's awesome, dude. And what was that like, going walking? That's a big stadium. The Diamondbacks don't have a small baseball stadium there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think that it was still to this day, I don't think it feels real. Because, like, being a baseball player, of course, you want to make it to the league and blah, 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 blah. But just being able to appreciate the game from a different aspect was just kind of like, hey, like, you're on the right track type of feeling. Like, hey, like, yeah, you're not playing, but you're still making the strides and the efforts in different aspects to still get tied to the game. Which I appreciated a lot.
Yeah, man. I think that'd be freaking crazy. Like, for me, even though I'm from Jacksonville, multiple family members up in Boston, like, I'm a Boston Celtics fan. Hopefully they're going to go back-to-back this year.
I actually was just in Boston 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah? What'd you do up in Boston?
So, funny thing, we talking about traveling. I'm on a journey this year to hit all 30 MLB stadiums in one season.
Okay.
So, one of my line brothers, he had a military transfer of, I want to say a unit. I'm not even know. But a pretty important ceremony up in D.C. And I'm like, okay, I can go to D.C., go to your ceremony. And then the Nationals were playing that weekend. So I went to the Nationals game that night. The next day, flew to Philadelphia Phillies for the Phillies and the Dodgers game.
That's a cool one, yeah.
Then the next day, was able to go to the Boston Red Sox, did a tour of their field, and watched the Red Sox and the Cardinals play that night.
Nice.
And then the Celtics also played the Wizards. And I had a relationship that I built with a guy here in Jacksonville who runs food and beverage for that stadium. And I just let them know, it's like, hey, I know the people who run food and beverage, they may have some tickets to give you, and they gave me some tickets to that game. Like I say, I know somebody everywhere. So
That's
yeah, I was able to
sweet.
do that in like a 3 or 4 day span, and yeah.
That's freaking sweet. I say I need to go do that because I've been to 2 MLB parks in my life. I've been
to Boston?
I've been to Fenway.
So so it was funny because I never knew that Sweet Caroline was that big there.
Yep. I think like the whole thing there about like a game day in Boston is crazy. You know, you go down Yawkey Way. I don't think there's Yawkey. I think they may have changed it recently. I don't think Yawkey Way is still there, but like the main street and everything around the stadium, they had all the bars, all the concessions and all that stuff outside there. I went there. It was the 100th year anniversary, and it was when Kevin Youkilis left the Red Sox and went to the White Sox.
Oh, wow.
So it was Red Sox and White Sox against each other, and I still have my jersey in there. It has the 100-year anniversary patch on it. And walking around there, man, like, you know how people say you can just feel like an energy when you go to places? Yeah. I've only had this happen twice. It was there and like just feeling the energy of everything going on. And it was the bottom of the ninth. Dustin Pedroia stepped up. Yes, sir. Shout out Pedroia. He goes up there and hits a home run over the Green Monster to win the game. And when I tell you that stadium, it wasn't even like a playoff game. It was just a normal game. Yeah. Everything was shaking. Everybody was hugging and jumping to each other. And I thought that was one of the really cool experiences there. Yep. And I think Boston just has so much history in it. That's the main thing about it. Walking around there and seeing all the stuff going on, the championship banners, seeing the big green monster there, I was like, oh, this is what I've seen on TV 1,000 times. This is cool.
Yeah, and it was funny. Growing up, I was always I don't know if I was a Red Sox fan, but I loved the Manny Ramirez. I loved the David Ortiz.
Big Papi? Yeah, I love me Big Papi.
And I just loved them. Of course, they were AL East, so everybody, they play Tampa, But yeah, I love those two guys.
Yeah.
And just learning about the history, of course, of the Red Sox. And till this day, they still have some of the original seating in there. They had the one red seat where Ted Williams hit the longest home run. And I think the history is important. And it's funny you say everybody was jumping and hugging and all that. I have this thing, and I tell people all the time, no matter what is going on in the world, racially or whatever it may be, music and sports is kind of that melting pot that just brings everybody together. And it's just like, no matter what's going on, if you're a fan of the Jaguars, you go to the Jaguar game on Sunday, everyone's a Jaguar.
That's right.
Like, you don't see color, you don't see background, and that's the beauty of like sports and music. Like, regardless, there's a path where everybody can come forward and work together, and I just love being in that space.
I agree, man. Yeah. Like that's a big thing we talk about on here as well, is like, you know, obviously like with what you see on the news, what you see in life and everybody, I feel like everybody's trying to divide each other. And really, if you sit down and talk with most people, you guys are going to find more things that you have in common than what you do separately. Sure. And that's the thing where I feel like our generation coming up, right? Yeah. You know, there's still racial issues, obviously. That's going to be around, unfortunately, but I feel like it's getting to the point now where we can sit down and talk about it a little bit better. Not saying anything is perfect in the world, you know, I mean, there's still a lot of issues going on, but I feel like our generation is more of one that can sit down and talk rather than sit there and fight each other just over, you know, different ideologies or different conversations. So I feel like we are getting to that point.
Yeah, and I love that, because I'm one of the people, I respect and appreciate everyone's thought patterns, background, and that's the only way that I learn stuff about things I may not know or be blinded to. And that's how you learn stuff in areas that you're blinded to. So I think having those conversations, whether they're tough or whatever it may be, is important. But like I say, I just love the fact that everybody just can come together and work together.
I agree, and that's what sports did for me. Yeah. You know, luckily I grew up, like I said, parents divorced when I was young, all that kind of stuff. You know, I always had food on the table. I always had clothes on my back. So I grew up very lucky. There's a lot of people who didn't have that. And, you know, I recognized that through going and playing basketball and stuff. Some of my teammates were not nearly as fortunate as I was, but sitting down and talking with them, seeing what they're going to their houses, sleeping over there, and being able to hang out with people who may look different than me and seeing what their life experience is compared to mine is, it helps, you know, kind of talk to people a little bit differently, because you never know, as you said, how close to the edge they are or what they're going through at home and why they act the way they act. So that was a big learning point for me growing up as a man, is to not take everything at face value, kind of see what's behind the scenes first before you just start making your opinions. But no, I find it amazing. And the other part, the other time that I had that feeling where like everybody was jumping towards each other, this is a game that me and Shannon went to, is when we were playing the Chargers in the playoffs. We were there the whole game. Everybody was leaving, and when we were down down. What was it, like 28-3?
I was one of the people that were leaving.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I understand. We were sitting there, man, and I was like, dang, man, not this year. Don't do it to me. And funny enough, I've told this before, there was a Chargers fan in front of me, and when Trevor Lawrence threw his like third interception, he's like, that's one, that's two, that's three. I was like, all right, whatever. And then we started scoring touchdowns. Like we scored that last touchdown before halftime. I was like, that's one. I'm like, don't let him get two. And we like kept scoring. We kicked that field goal, me and the Chargers fan going back and forth, and it was all playful and fun, nothing aggressive in any way. And towards the end of the game, me and him dapped up. We're like, that was one of the best football games I've ever seen in my life. But to see Duval, everybody hugging each other, like people running down the streets, like, just everything. It was madness around the city. It was so cool.
Yeah, I visibly remember that game. So my girlfriend that was in town, and her one of her best friends was here. I was born in '95, so I'm a diehard Jaguars fan.
Same.
I love the Jags.
Same.
That's like Jaguar, me go together.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember just being at the game. I'm super excited. I'm like, man, I think it was a nighttime playoff game. End zones were painted black.
Yep.
I'm like, oh man, this is the one. Like, everybody's hyping the game up, and then we just go out there and start laying egg after egg after egg. And I think it got to the point where I didn't see a way out.
Yeah.
So I tapped my girlfriend. I'm like, I just want to go watch this at the restaurant, right? Let's just leave here. Let's just go to the restaurant, and I can just enjoy my night there.
Yep.
So we leave the game. We're driving over to the restaurant. I think we leave at halftime. I think it's like 21-7 at this point. So I'm like, okay, if we're going to lose, I'd rather lose at the restaurant, enjoy my night there, and then go home.
Yeah.
So when we get to the restaurant, I just hear screaming. I'm like, man, what the hell is going on? So we walk in the door. I look at the screen. I say, whoa, does that say 21, or are we like really in striking distance? And from there, it was just like the most insane night ever.
Oh, yeah.
And I joke with her a lot. I say, man, the day the Jaguars win the Super Bowl is going to be a very interesting day downtown.
It's gonna be interesting. I will not be going downtown that night, but like, that's the thing. Then it's just like, that's the cool part about Jacksonville is just like the Jaguars are so ingrained into our city. When the Jaguars are doing good, Jacksonville's doing good.
Yeah.
It's a lot calmer. People are happier. If you're wearing a Jag shirt, someone goes by and says, "Go Jags." It's just one of those integral parts of our city. We are a beaten and abused fan base that we have seen a lot of things. We've had a moment to go to the freaking Super Bowl that we just, we squandered, unfortunately. But Jacksonville's just one of those major places that I think we have so much cool stuff going on here.
Yeah, it was cool. I really didn't realize how big of a fan base Jacksonville had till I went to the London game this past year.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, so seeing how big like Jacksonville went to that game, whether they were like local Europeans or even from the States, was like, wow. Like, you look in the stadium, it was a soccer stadium full of Jaguars fans, and it's like, whoa.
We're all over the place, man. But you did bring up your restaurant, man. I want to make sure we talk about that. So tell me about the restaurant. Obviously, you said you're part owner, co-owner?
Yeah, so it's me and my 4 brothers, or 5 brothers. It's 5 owners total.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we started this back in, it is 2025, 2021.
Oh, wow. So it's been around for a little while now.
So
okay.
Going on 4 years now, out the terrible 2s and the terrible 3s. And it was just kind of one of those things where when COVID came around, of course, Florida was open. We just caught ourselves traveling a very, very lot. So, hey, man, like, we want something to do. We want something fun. We want something fun to do. We want to go out. We're all growing and at the age where I think everybody kind of has that club phase where it's like nightclub, out late. But as you kind of grow up, it's more like hey, I want to go out, I want to eat go to a nice happy hour, have a nice dinner, enjoy some nice music, and not stay out too late and go home.
Yeah.
So we used to travel like different markets, whether that was your Atlantas, your Houstons, your Miamis, and it was like, hey, like, these places are adapting lounge concepts, right? Now, a lounge, of course, is a hybrid between a restaurant and a nightclub, like in a nice middle. So we all just came together like, hey, like, how about we just pull our money together and just create this experience that we're craving elsewhere here at home. And we were able to come across a spot that was turnkey ready, and of course we went in with our own design concept and phase and just kind of banged it out. We're all first generation restaurant owners or restaurateurs or whatever you want to call it, and I think that it's just been a very fun and interesting space. But like I said, we've made it to year 4 and it's working.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part about being a restaurant owner?
Me personally, I would say it's kind of 2 lanes with that. Of course, the long days, long nights.
Of course, yeah.
There's always, no day is the same. And I'm on the tourist development board, and there's another restaurateur on that board as well. And we were joking last week before our board meeting. It was like, hey, you can have the most perfect Wednesday and the most outrageous Thursday. Like, no matter how you plan it, no 2 days will ever be the same. So I think just kind of being able to adjust that something will always change. And of course, right now we're in a very weird space in the world, economy wise, to where prices change minute over minute.
Yep.
So just being able to jump in and always know, like, you have to stay on point with ordering and working with 4 or 5 different vendors and making sure that you're getting the right product at the right price and selling it at a certain margin, I think is the most challenging part. And then, as I will also say, leading a staff of 45 to 50 people.
It's a good amount of people, man.
Yeah,
that's a lot of souls.
Dealing with a lot of different emotions, and of course, I would say majority of our staff, I would say 75% women.
Okay.
So as a man, being able to learn how to lead differently.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times as a man, you want to lead firm and tough and hard, but dealing with women, we know that you have to be a little bit softer in tone and a little bit more caring and gentle. So just kind of being able to reframe or reshape how you lead others, I would say is a good thing, but it's important.
I understand.
Yeah.
And obviously we were talking about, I worked with restaurants, and I understand your thought process on that, because, you know, some people can take that hardness and be like, okay, that motivated me, let's get this going. And there's other people that just completely shuts them down. Like, it's just over after that. When it comes to the restaurant, I have not had a chance to come to your restaurant or anything. What kind of food do you guys sell? Like, what's your kind of vibe in there?
I would say a little bit of everything. Okay. Our number one seller, of course, I would say lamb chop, seafood mac, but we have lamb chops, seafood mac, regular mac, yellow rice, broccoli, asparagus, fried grilled lobster, fried grilled salmon, winged shrimp. On the weekends, we do a gumbo, oxtail.
That sounds good as hell. I was saying, I need to come out.
Yeah, fried red snapper. And the cool thing about I would say our business is a lot of our leaders or bar managers and chef have all grown within the business.
Okay.
Like our current chef started as a line cook. Our current bar manager started off as bartenders. Our current floor lead started off as a hostess. And just kind of seeing the progression of them grow into leaders has been something that I've enjoyed being a part of.
That's really cool.
Because I'm one of those people where, I can make the decisions, but if I can teach someone else to make a decision that can take something off my plate, I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, right? I like that a lot.
And just being able to see the confidence in them rise when you're able to encourage them to make a mistake is super cool.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we go in places and it's like, hey, I want to make this decision, but I'm scared of the repercussions that someone may hold against me if it's the wrong decision. And my style of leadership where is more like, hey, like, let's make a decision. If you're able to explain your decision as a reasonable explanation, we can always figure out a way forward. And I prefer a quick mistake and then no decision at all.
Yeah.
Right. And just being able to see kind of their natural progression as leaders and decision making, and being able to, hey, take a step back and say, hey, before I say something, let me process my emotions, process this situation. It is a cool part of that business that I love to see.
That's really cool, man. And like you were saying, some people get paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
You know, they sit there and overthink it so much that no decision's made. So I can definitely understand that. And when it comes to being a restaurant owner and everything, obviously we don't need to talk numbers or, get too deep into that. But I've always heard restaurants are very, thin margin of profit. So with there being 5 owners, how do you guys kind of make that work to make it the point where it's still worth it for you guys and not just dumping money into something that's continuously sucking money off of you? Yeah,
I would say just kind of knowing your numbers is important. And I'm kind of biased on this because, of course, it's business and you want to make money. But I'm one of those people where I focus on creating an impact, right?
Okay.
Leaving a legacy. And I think that if you focus on creating an impact and leaving a legacy, the money is going to come, whether that's through the business or other avenues. And I think once you become that staple within the community, people support a good story rather than somebody that just cares about the money they're making.
Gotcha.
So you have to look out for your employees and actually have a meaning and story behind what you're doing, because then the community buys into it, right? And then once the community buys into it, no matter what's going on, they're always going to support you. So I think just kind of having that in the back of our heads is always important, because unfortunately, in the business, you're not going to always make money.
Yeah.
And if it's like one of those things where money drives all your decision making and all your thoughts and feelings, eventually you'll get to a point where it's just like, I'm done. But I think the driving factor for us is like we're in this for more than the money. We're more in this for the impact that we're seeing in our communities. I'm one of those people where, our business does good, but let me see how it's impacting the local grocery store across the street or the local gas station or the businesses next to my left or to my right and the jobs that it's creating. And I think that the cool thing about that is like just kind of how my brain works. If my employees are getting paid decent wages and are happy, then that means they're going home and they're able to take care of their family, which means you have kids going to school happier. And just that whole dynamic of just leadership is important.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm one of those people where I feel like I'm not going to say I don't care about money, but money isn't an end-all, be-all for me. If I'm able to see somebody happy and they're like the world is in a better place, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because somewhere along the line, God is going to bless me with something. And I think as long as you're doing the right thing, principle and moral kind of should last way more than kind of what you're making.
Oh, I thoroughly agree, man. And there's not a lot of people that think that way. So it's refreshing to hear something like that. And you also have set yourself up to have, at least from outside perspective, that you have multiple flows of income coming in.
Yeah. And also it's like one of those things like money is infinite.
Yeah.
So if you're chasing money, you're going to be running forever. You have to have purpose and drive and passion about something. And it has to be something that you're not chasing that never ends because eventually you get tired.
Yeah, man. I say we all get tired. And to kind of switch over to another topic for you. So obviously you were talking about being on the board, and we've been lucky enough to have Yaya Cardona.
I was actually with Yaya earlier today at the Earth Day event downtown, and then last week at Blue Zones kickoff over at the restaurant.
Awesome. And Yaya is awesome, dude. And I say she's actually, me and her have bumped into each other a couple times, like before doing the podcast.
I asked her to teach me Spanish. She said she wasn't that good at teaching me.
she has a good story, man, and like she's super cool, and like just the amount of support that she gives to people I find amazing as well. And obviously with what you're doing, like our big thing is sitting down with people who are doing good stuff. Yeah. We're not sitting here like we get hit up by people all the time. They're like, oh, I want to be a part of your podcast. I got something to say. And then I look on their Instagrams, I'm selling drugs or doing all this other stuff. Yeah. I'm like, first of all, you're not coming on the show. I'm not giving you my address. I was like, that's not happening. But no, it's cool to see people who are wanting to make Jacksonville a better place because as we were saying, there's a weird perspective on Jax, or at least before then, let's say 10 years ago, people are looking at us as like murder capital of Florida for a long time there. And now we got TK in here who cut that down by 50% on the murder side of things. Shout out TK Waters and shout out to Yaya as well. It's cool to see Jacksonville becoming a better place, people who are wanting to help the community and help us all grow and not just, take everything from themselves and then run away.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing is I think that Jacksonville for a very, very, very long time has been like a old guard city. And when I say old guard, it means like we were very traditional in the way that we did a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I think now you have kind of those thought leaders that are in like very pivotal parts of their personal lives to where they're willing to put their neck out and stand up for their community or whatever it is they believe in, and kind of getting in those rooms to get the knowledge of what's going on and say, hey, like, you're forgetting about, in Yaya's aspect, the Latino community, right? And this is how they perceive certain situations, and you're forgetting about them in that aspect. So I think just having those people who are willing to put their neck and names out there to stand up for their communities is making Jacksonville a very unique and great place.
And everybody has representation.
For sure.
That's what it needs to be. I mean, there can't just be one kind of person in the room and not the many other kinds of people in there and not help like to make decisions for other people who have not been in their experience. So it's amazing to see that. And how did you get involved in the board?
So, funny story. I always thought like politics and public service was like weird. Like, I never wanted to be anything associated with anything political. Because I just felt like you had to be a different version of yourself and you had to be somebody that you weren't. But when we started a restaurant, of course, like we were eager, ready to get started, ready to go. We ran into like a roadblock to where we were operating, but we didn't file the right paperwork with like the building inspection, the union, and the fire marshal's office to where they came in and shut us down.
Gotcha.
So kind of once that happened, it was just like, okay, we didn't do this because we were trying to cut corners or we were trying to get by, whatever it may be. Like a lot of times we just didn't know. So it came to a point where we were trying to open the restaurant back up, and we're just kind of getting faced with roadblock at the roadblock at the roadblock. Oh, go talk to this person, and this person is saying, hey, go talk to this person. So at the time, Mayor Deegan had just won her campaign against Daniel Davis, and she was having kind of a community town hall maybe 2 or 3 minutes up from where the restaurant was. And I was out of town. My girlfriend stays in Orlando, and I'm one of those people where I don't talk a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, if you go to the restaurant, I was always like the weird guy that just looks and never says nothing, because I'm always observing and just always trying to process what's going on around. And I wasn't a very vocal person, but I always had my own thoughts and feelings about a lot. So that day, I don't know what dawned on me. Something was like, man, go to Jacksonville, go get up during public comment and say how you feel, what you're facing, and what's going on. So I went to this town hall. I'll never forget it. And I'm in the room, and at this point, she just won her campaign. So, of course, a lot of people now are, hey, what are you going to do for our community? Mm-hmm. What's your goals? How are you going to address this, address that? And this room was packed. So I walk in, and I'm like, what did I just do? So I was just looking around. The line at this point is long, and they're giving out the yellow public speaker, the public comment card. And something again just said, Mike, it's your turn to go talk. So I'm like at the edge of my chair trying to scoot up, but something's holding me back. And something just says, get up. So I get up, and luckily enough, they were running out of speaker cards, and I got the last one.
Oh, wow.
So they handed me the speaker card, and I got up and spoke and just kind of said, hey, this is going on. This is the roadblock that we're facing. This is the impact that it's having on my employees. I have employees that, unfortunately, this is their livelihood, right? Mm-hmm. I have employees that sleeping not in the back of the restaurant, but in the back parking lot of the restaurant in their car because they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So I think once I got up and spoke and just kind of explained that, hey, like, we're trying to do good business. We just didn't know that a lot of stuff you had to do. She gave me her assistant's card. I was like, hey, Mike, reach out to my assistant, and we're going to do what we can to see how we can move this ball forward for you. And from that conversation, I think that I was like, hey, like, if I'm facing this issue, there's probably a million other people and small businesses here locally that may be going through or will soon go through or in the next couple of years will go through the same thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of started getting in those rooms, started meeting different people and just kind of sharing my ideas and visions. And it got to a point where they're like, hey, Mike, like, you are super smart. Like, you're one of those people where nobody can tell you no. And it was a funny thing. I ended up meeting like the head Chief Powers, which is the head of JFRD.
Oh, wow.
The head building inspector. And I had got so well known on building code and fire code where I just felt like I can do their job. And I think just showing that level of dedication and passion to bringing something back to my community kind of struck them one way. And from there, we kind of didn't have any more issues. Granted, we still had to go through the process of getting things back up to code and the paperwork side of things straight. But from that aspect, it was like, hey, like, I have to get in these rooms to, one, get the information that's going on, and two, be a resource to other individuals in my community who want to start something. I can kind of help them navigate different things. So from there, kind of just learning, like, the city council members and getting to know them and kind of course, sharing my background of what I'm interested in. I start seeing tourist development board. So I'm like, I start looking to it. I'm like, what is this, right? So I looked one time, and I think the first time, those seats were like appointed by the city council president and then the mayor's office. So I reached out once, and I think the seat had just gotten filled. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. About 7 or 8 months later, I got back online, random late one. I'm a vampire, so I'm always working 3, 4 in the morning.
That's me as well. Like if I'm editing the pod, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm right there with you.
So I got on, and I see where it was a vacant seat. So I was like, okay, let me reach out again. And lucky enough, this time I reached out, and they were like, yeah, you're the perfect guy for the seat. So, of course, I went through the process of having to go and meet the city council members and share my resume and go through the background check. But I would say that I'm going on month 5 or 6 on the board. It has been very pivotal. Because you get to learn a lot of different aspects about what's going on in the city from like a tourist development standpoint. And also on that board with me sits the city council president, city council vice president that's going to be sworn in as the city council president here in the next few weeks. the CEO of Jack's Airport Aviation System.
Oh, wow.
Which is
That's cool.
JAA Cecil, all of your airport here locally, 2 hoteliers that own local hotels. So just kind of being in a room with those individuals has sharpened my tool set so much more. And you're able to understand the dynamics of a lot of things, downtown development from a different aspect.
Yeah.
So now when people are asking, hey, like, what does this word mean? Or why is this project moving slow? What's this project about? I'm able to kind of explain it from a different perspective. And they're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Gotcha.
So I think just being in those rooms are important. I tell people all the time, from a city aspect, once a lot of these projects hit the news, they're probably 7, 8, 9 months voted on already.
Yeah.
Like right now, we're in the process of doing budget. Like we have, of course, we approved the NCAA prelims that's going to come to UNF here. And,
the prelims are coming here?
Yeah, so
I wasn't even aware of that. That's freaking sweet.
So a lot of that stuff is like already voted on and funded, and just kind of being in those rooms, kind of knowing that now you can share that information and people can kind of plan, okay, maybe I need to have my food truck in that area because I know a lot of college kids run, they're going to be hungry and families are going to be in town. And it's refreshing.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. And obviously we have a lot of things going on downtown. The new stadium coming up. The Four Seasons is coming here as well. And, you know, like another thing I'm really enjoying that's going on downtown is like the art scene is growing. Yeah. Like we have that new skate park down there. What else is going on? They're opening a couple parks, aren't they, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot. So they just opened this past weekend the Shipwreck Island over at Friendship Fountain. They did the Easter egg hunt with. And I think Katie Yellow, she's done an amazing job with like placemaking. And I think just Jacksonville creatives have like came onto the scene very, very, very hard. And like I say, Jacksonville is just kind of that melting pot of a lot of different individuals that's doing great things. And I think now they're being pushed to the forefront, and it's just at that point in time where it's time.
I agree, man. And that's the thing that's cool. Like through doing the podcast for years now, like we see people getting up and we're like, I've talked to them. We're like, look at what they're doing now, man. And that's like my favorite thing is sitting down with someone and then seeing their growth as it continues and then bringing them back for part 2 to hear like, hey, I had this idea 3 years ago when I talked to you and now it's real.
Yeah. And the cool thing about like even downtown stuff, while we're on that, is just like, the resident density, which is like the number of people living in a certain mile radius area, isn't large enough to attract a lot of your large corporations and chains and things of that sort. So Jacksonville has this unique niche to where we have to attract local and small businesses to make up our downtown area. Yeah. And I think that's the cool thing is just like in the next 4 or 5 years, a lot of your local-owned, small-owned businesses are going to be your main businesses that's running that downtown development area. It's going to be super exciting to see.
It's how it should be, man. Yeah. You know, whenever you go to a local business, that money that you're spending means way more to them. Yeah. That $1, $20, $30, whatever it is going to be spent there, and then it's going to be put back into the community in some way, shape, or form. So it's a cycle rather than, you know, spending, you know, there's nothing wrong with spending with big corporations. Obviously, a lot of people use Amazon and all that stuff. But, you know, to sit down with that mom and pop people and those people who are just trying to grow what they can here in the city, and it means so much more to them. Every time I've talked to those kinds of people, it gets me excited to see what they're going to do in their future and everything. And it's a cool thing to do, man. Like I said, everything that you've talked about, dude, is crazy. It's crazy to hear the amount of accomplishments that you have done, and you know you're still working. You're 29 years old, dude, and you've already accomplished all this here. It's cool to see.
Yeah, and it's a kind of testament just to hard work, resilience, and dedication. My favorite quote from Nipsey Hussle is like, "I'm not different from anyone. I just never give up."
That's right.
And I think, man, once you just kind of have that mindset of just like, hey, every day is a new day to accomplish something. I had this thing where no matter who asks me, how are you doing today? I say, man, I'm alive, right? And I think just being alive, you have a lot of opportunity to, one, correct mistakes if you've made a mistake, and two, you have an opportunity to make another difference. So as long as I'm alive and breathing, it's the best day in the world. I have a chance to make a decision.
I agree, man. A lot of people don't have that chance. You know, people think of waking up and they're like, oh, my life's terrible and all that. There's a lot of people that didn't get that chance to wake up. Yeah. And like one of my favorite things, I have a tattooed on my arm, is never a failure, always a lesson. It's always a lesson, man. You got to fail to figure out how to get through life and do different things. And the people who are the most afraid of failure aren't going to be able to move forward. If you just try something, as multiple times if you've said throughout the podcast, you just tried. And it worked, you know.
Yeah. Failure is important. I think. And I talked about this on my podcast. Before you learn how to win, you have to learn how to lose.
That's right.
And that's in all aspects of life. From I'm teaching my nephew that now because my nephew's playing like youth football.
Okay.
And he's one of those people who hate losing. Like,
yeah.
He loses, he cries, he gets emotional. I'm like, hey, bro, like, you have to learn how to be a good sport when you lose.
Yeah.
And I think just learning how to process a loss and how to bounce back from a loss is very important. So, yeah, failure is inevitable, but how you respond to failure is most important.
I thoroughly agree, man. I think that's beautiful. So I got one final question for you. One final question for you, and we'll definitely do a part 2, man. Like I said, I would love to have you back on, man. Let's say I think everything you've talked about, I'm motivated. I hope everybody else watching this is motivated. But I ask this every time, whenever someone's first time on the podcast, I always ask them this question, and it is, do you feel successful? And if you do or do not, in what ways?
So success, right? It's a funny word. Because success in our world, depending on kind of how you pitch it, can be money, it can be cars, it can be jewelry, it can be whatever. And I think, to me, I'm successful. You have to define your own meaning of success. And like I say, as long as I'm alive, breathing, and I'm trying my best, I'm successful. I think a lot of stuff will figure itself out. But as long as I'm alive, breathing, making decisions and making the right decisions, I'm successful.
I agree, man. And there's a reason why I asked that question is because we've had over 100 guests in that chair. No one ever answers it the same. Yeah. Because some people will be like, I got a house, I'm financially stable, I'm good. Other people are like, hey, I reconnected with family members I haven't talked to in years. I'm successful in the relationship side of things. And I think it's a good thing, man. Like defining success is definitely hard. There's some days where I feel like I'm $1 million and there's other days I feel like I'm lower than zero, you know, and it's just taking that step and just looking at everything you have, looking at everything you've done in your life and still being able to wake up every single day and, just try to be thankful for what you have.
Yeah, so thankfulness is key.
I think it's beautiful, man. And like I said, thank you so much for your time today, dude.
Anytime.
I thought it's been a very interesting conversation. I appreciate you reaching out, man. Like I said, it always surprises me for some reason. I don't know why. When people want to actually reach out and be on the show, I'm like, I guess this isn't me just talking to a black hole or something like that.
You're not. And I think that I'm thankful for your platform because just like scrolling, you hear a lot of different aspects of people you're highlighting. So I'm able to say, hey, who is this person? What are they doing? I think just having those positive platforms in a world where we promote so much BS is important. So I think that the information that you take in is just as important as how much you put out. And I think just having that platform that puts out positive, productive information that somebody can digest, use in their own life is important because you're creating the next you or you're creating the next me or whoever it may be. And nowadays we live in a very not clicky, but let me just click on this video and see what it's about. Yeah. And a lot of times you have like my nephew and high schoolers who may be lost, college kids that may be in the middle of a phase that may just find your platform and just by seeing what you're putting out there, get motivated to be something great. I agree. So I think just having platforms like yours is very important in today's world.
I just try to be positive, man. Like with us, we talk about a wide range of things. Not everything's positive. Like I like to put out what's real and what's going on in the world. Obviously, I put out some highlights. Everybody's Instagram and all that stuff is highlights of their life and blah, blah, blah. But putting out the stories, man. Like I said, everybody's grown up differently than me. And I find it interesting to hear how people made it to where they are today. And my goal is to make one person's life a little bit better. If it's an hour of them being able to get away from what they're dealing with at that moment or motivate them to move forward and do something different, man. That's the main goal of doing this. And also at the end of the day, I tell this to Shannon all the time, man, is like, this is 3 years of our life, man. Like I hope whenever I'm older and not here anymore, my kids or my grandkids can look at me like, that's what your grandpa was like, or that's what your dad was like when he was doing his thing. He went through the same situations that you're going through right now. He made it through. You're going to find a way. And that's the way I look at it, man. It's just putting stuff out there that can be an audio diary, I guess is more what it is. So
yeah, you'll look back one day like, man, and a lot of times people are thankful silently. And I think just kind of being in public sometimes, people say, hey, like, I'm thankful that you dropped that episode, or I'm thankful that you touched that topic. I think is one of the more pivotal or important points of just like kind of what you do. So it's important.
Yeah, man. Like I try to pop out around the city as much as possible. Go say what's up. We've had a lot of like Wind Down Wednesday. We've had their whole crew on here in the past. Super cool. Obviously, we were talking about Yaya. Visit Jacksonville, the CEO. I don't know if he's still there.
Is it Mike Corrigan?
Yeah,
that's my guy.
Hey, I say, dude, he was probably like episode like number like 12. Like I went to his office and everything. Went and did the podcast there. Super cool guy. A lot of people we met. I don't know if you've ever heard of this group. Obviously, there's many groups, but the Southside Businessmen Friends Club.
Okay.
They basically each week it's a bunch of business owners that meet together, and they'll have a guest speaker, and that's where I met TK Waters. That's where I met the gentleman from Visit Jacksonville. That's where I met the CEO for JEA at the time, and just getting into those rooms, as you said, getting into those rooms, and that's one thing I preach. You were talking about your little brother, your cousin going through situations at the time. I'm watching my little brother who's 15, so 10 years difference, and seeing him go through the same similar situations I'm going through. I try to be a mentor to him as much as possible. I'm like, dude, I was an idiot at your age. I'm like, if you can surpass those things, you're going to be a lot better. And I didn't have that opportunity with me. I didn't have an older brother that was like, hey dude, don't do this, do this. You got other options and everything. But like I said, man, thank you for everything you're doing for our community. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today. And if you want to let everybody know where they can follow you, check out anything you got going on, any website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so social media, Instagram, the One Golden Boy, TikTok, the 1GB. I don't have anything fun coming up. Me and my girlfriend about to go to Hawaii in a few weeks for her birthday. So I'm going in like May to like July. My birthday in July is always like a up and down time for me because it's my time to take my break.
I understand, man.
My favorite race in the Olympics is the relay. Like, hey, I can run so far. I'll pass the baton off, but when it come back to me, I'm ready to run again. So I think I'm at that point where take a few weeks off and enjoy life. Women are demanding at times, and they appreciate the work, but they need their time too.
As I look behind the camera with Shannon. Nah, man, like I said, you deserve your break, but at the end of the day, dude, you're doing awesome stuff. You're representing Jacksonville in a great way, and I love to see that, and would love to have you back on in the future.
For sure. Keep going, man.
Hey, man, try our best, man. I say we've been going for 3 years straight. We're going to continue as long as possible and keep doing our thing, but as I said, man, thank you again today.
Anytime.
And before we get out of here, y'all, everything he just described will be put in the description of the podcast, whether on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the normal spots. So if you guys want to check out more of his stuff, everything he has going on, make sure you guys give him a like, a subscribe, a follow. Make sure you guys go check out his podcast, man. I like his videos. I think you need to get back on it, dude. I love the podcast.
Yeah, I love a good accountability partner. Accountability is important.
You're a busy man, so I understand, dude. I understand. It takes time, but like I said, make sure you guys go give him a follow on all the social media. Everything will be linked in the description. But before we get out of here, make sure you guys give us a follow on the social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod on Instagram, from everything from, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the normal spots. And make sure you guys check out our YouTube channel. The community's growing. We don't have 10 million followers or anything, but we're over that 100. So shout out to everybody who's followed the podcast on there. It's going to be Who Are You podcast, and you guys will be able to find us on there. And then my final thing is, if you feel like you would be a good fit for the show, you're an entrepreneur, an artist, a restaurateur, you work in local government here in Jacksonville, really a mix of anything, feel free to shoot me a message. Let me know what you guys are all about, and maybe we'll have you guys on a future episode. But as I say every single week, y'all, thank you for checking us out, and we'll see you guys next week.